Welcome, Mr. Ambassador,
Thank you.
to our world. Another installment in this very exciting project that we're doing together at the Asan Institute with the educational broadcasting system. Thank you very much for agreeing to do this and to introduce your country to the Korean audience. Costa Rica, as far as Koreans are concerned, is a very happy country. We're very envious. You have a wonderful football team that did great at the World Cup, performed greatly, and just beat us a few days ago in Korea. You have one of the most famous coffees in the world that Koreans love to drink and figure very prominently because Koreans have become such connoisseurs of coffee, and everybody now knows about Costa Rican coffee. And also, last but not least, Costa Rica is always ranked as one of the happiest countries in the world whenever they do this global happiness index. Your countrymen always say that you're the happiest in the world. So it's something that we're all very envious of, and very much look forward to hearing about your introduction of your very happy country. So welcome, and thank you again for doing this.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Noche de luna llena nos invita a pasear, con ella y mi morena vamos a contemplar las calles de Santiago y las 7 cabritas, el brillo en las estrellas nos hacen recordar. Si alguno te pregunta quién fue el que te cantó en estas serenatas, no digas que fui yo. Arriba del trapiche te dejo 4 letras que dicen hasta luego, otras dicen adiós. Y la que no llore porque es muy bruta, carajo, dijo Emel Velázquez.
Hello, you all. Thank you so much for your presence here and for your kind and patient attention. I want to once again express my most sincere thanks to Asan Institute and EBS for giving me the unique, excellent opportunity to talk about my country to distinguished Korean people. And I'll begin by saying that bienvenidos a Costa Rica. Welcome to Costa Rica. And pura vida, that phrase, pura vida, is like a brand for Costa Ricans. We always say pura vida, and abroad, many people who know Costa Rica, they know what pura vida means. Pura vida translates into English as pure life, but more than a phrase, it is an attitude, a positive attitude of Costa Ricans toward life. When you ask them, how are you? And they say, pura vida, they're saying, great. When we say, when we meet somebody and say, pura vida, we are saying, good to meet you. So pura vida is a positive attitude in front of life. So, bienvenidos a Costa Rica, pura vida. And thank you again for giving us the opportunity to introduce our country to Koreans. And now that we had a chance to briefly introduce Costa Rica, I want to tell you about Costa Rica's place in the world, its location in the world. It's in the American continent, in the heart of it, we say, in the middle. And I want to say that geographically, the American continent is divided in 3 main sections: North America, Central America, and South America. Latin America is something else. That's more than geography. It's ethnicity, it's history, it's common language with some exceptions. But Latin America goes from Mexico down to Argentina and includes the Caribbean, where there are several countries, only 3 of them Spanish-speaking. That's Cuba, Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico. I wanted to say that Latin America is divided geographically. In Mexico is part of North America, and then Central America, which includes 7 countries, and South America, which begins in Colombia and goes all the way down to Argentina and Chile. Central America is, as I said before, 7 countries. Historically, originally it was 5 countries, but later on, Panama, in the early 1900s, I think it was 1903, and Belize, which was a British protectorate and is right next to Guatemala, was established as an independent country maybe 30 years ago. So now Central America is 7 countries instead of the 5 original ones. And something else is that we have in Central America with what we call the Central American Integration System, which also includes the Dominican Republic out there on the Caribbean, and of which Korea, by the way, is an observer, is a member as an observer, not a full member, but an observer member in SICA. SICA, we call it in Spanish, Sistema de Integración Centroamericana, Central American Integration System, which gets all these 7 countries together, 8 countries with the Dominican Republic, gets them together so that they can jointly make efforts toward progress and development. So that's where Costa Rica is located, in the middle of America. Now, I'm going to say a little bit more about the country itself. The country on its eastern coast has the Caribbean Sea and the Atlantic Ocean, of course, and on its western coast, the Pacific Ocean, which one can say separates us from Korea or joins us together with Korea, because the trade between the Americas and Asia, and specifically Korean, has increased a lot during the last 15, 20 years. Korea has an important presence in the Costa Rican market, and so many Korean products go to our country by sea. Country has 7 provinces, which are located there, and I will not give you more information about that. San Jose, the capital city, is located on what we call the Central Valley, which is high. There we have very good temperatures, by the way. People used to think about Latin America in terms of a very warm weather or very hot weather. In San Jose, usually temperature ranges from 22 to 29 Celsius degrees all year round. And we have mainly 2 seasons. We call them winter and summer, but it's actually rainy season and dry season. And the rainy season, by the way, is quite long, 7.5 months, even 8 months. So it rains a lot. And that contributes to the fact that Costa Rica is a very green country. Our immediate neighbors to the north are Nicaragua, and to the south, Panama. With them, we share geography, history, language, culture, and hopefully a bright future for our peoples. That's what we would like to achieve together with our immediate neighbors. Nicaragua to the north, as I said before, and Panama to the southeast. Our capital city is San Jose, located on the Central Valley, as I said before. Country has only about 4.6 million, 4,600,000 inhabitants. That's our population. That's about 1/11 of the Korean population. So it's and our national territory is of 51,100 square kilometers, little bit over half the size of Korea, but much less populated, as I said before, because it's almost 51 million people now in Korea, and it's only 4.6 million people. The per capita income is a lot, of course, a lot smaller than Korea's, a lot smaller, is $55 billion, and our gross domestic product, GDP, and our per capita income is around $12,000. So it's quite low compared to Korea's per capita income and GDP, of course, but our GDP is one of the highest in Latin America. I think it's about the third or fourth GDP. That's about Costa Rica. I'm going to briefly talk about the history. We gained independence from Spain together with Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, and Nicaragua. So as a whole, 5 Central American countries gained independence from Spain in September 15, 1821. So we just celebrated 193 years of independent life. This independence we achieved through negotiations. Fortunately, we didn't have to fight a war against Spain, the colonial power, but throughout years of very sometimes harsh negotiations, but difficult negotiations all the time, long time negotiations, we achieved independence from Spain. And the country right away decided that national independence was only the starting point, that we really had not achieved nothing but independence from Spain, but we knew it was a starting point to a never-ending struggle to build freedom, social justice, human rights for the benefit of the Costa Rican people. And the country has been, in that respect, a very persistent country. The people of Costa Rica really love their freedom, their democracy. They're very proud of them. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a short while. But we have, since the very beginning, the country was lucky enough to have national leaders who understood the importance of people's participation in everything. At the very beginning, the authorities in Cartago, which at the time was the national capital, the capital of the country, they called representatives from all the towns of the country to decide about the future. And that's what you would call pali-pali. In December, the 1st of December, that same year, we had our first constitution, national constitution, which could be called Pact of Harmony in English, or it was also called Social Fundamental Pact of Costa Rica. And that's December 1821, when the country was very, very, very new. The country was, not only the country, other Central American countries as well, was to be subjected to a very difficult, dangerous situation only 35 years after its independence. And we were forced to fight a very bloody war, which we consider our real independence war, because we confirmed our independence our love to and adherence to democracy and to freedom, because a filibuster, you know what a filibuster is, an adventurer from the United States, from the south of the United States, tried to establish English-speaking colonies in Central America. He invaded several Central American countries. He took power in Nicaragua, where he was declared president. That's 1856. And after a few months, he invaded the northern province of Costa Rica, from which, fortunately, he was rejected by a local army made mainly of volunteers. And he was chased out into Nicaragua. And on April 11th, 1856, Costa Rica inflicted a terrible defeat to this foreign army in a city called Rivas in Nicaragua. And the country paid a very high toll in this war because of the war itself and an epidemic of cholera. We lost 10,000 people in our national army, and that in Costa Rica was around less than 300,000 people then, so it was a very heavy toll we paid for our freedom and independence. This monument in San Jose commemorates that war against the foreign invader to Central America, and that gives the idea of Central American countries chasing out the invader. I'll say it was mentioned before that Costa Rican achievements are praised by history and international indexes of different kinds. We are, as I said, fond, proud of our democracy, and we like to say that Costa Rica is the oldest democracy in Latin America. Actually, November 7th, 2014, we are celebrating 125 years of democracy. So I'll tell you that talking about public safety, Costa Rica is the third, according to international indexes, third safest country in the region, only after Chile and Uruguay. Costa Rica is a very safe country. We have crime, of course, and everything, but in very low numbers by comparison to most countries in the region and many other countries in the world. We are known for our permanent respect to human rights. That's been recognized many times. Costa Rica is always a member of, or almost always a member of the UN Human Rights Committee. We take part in every effort, international effort, toward the strengthening of human rights systems, and that's something which also makes us very proud. We are the first country ever in the world to abolish the army. The army was abolished in Costa Rica in 1948 by a decision of the president, and such decision was ratified the following year when our new constitution was written, and the constitution established that we don't have an army, we'll never have an army, because we want to believe in international law and international organizations, and we are convinced that differences between countries can be solved through negotiations, through peaceful negotiations. So we don't have an army, and that enabled us to dedicate resources which would have been used for military purposes. Those resources we preferred and decided to deviate toward education and health. So we are very proud of that fact also. And we've lived now for 66 years this year without an army. Maybe our love for freedom and democracy has something to do, that's my personal idea, with the fact that our first president, our first head of state, was not a general, as happened in many other countries, or one could say too many other countries. Our first head of state was a school teacher. So I do believe that that made a difference. And so when we talk about democracy, we're proud of our army. We call it the young students. This is just for you to see. There's National University in a town next to San Jose called Heredia, which has, I think, around 20,000 students, and Universidad de Costa Rica, Costa Rica University, which is the oldest university in the country and has around 30,000 students. I think there's a little bit over 100,000 university college students in Costa Rica. There's 5 public universities and about 50 private universities. But I'll tell you that out of the 5 public universities, 4 have established and are developing. One of them, Korean language student studies, the Universidad Nacional. The other 3, Korean culture and language studies. So this is to say that in Costa Rica, the college level, there's interest in Korea. We also have almost 30 students benefiting from scholarships in Korea right now. So education has always been important for us. 2 years after independence, in 1823, the government was declared responsible for the education of the people. 10 years later, in 1833, this is important because it signals a tendency, a permanent tendency. Education was made available to girls in 1883, while in 1840, an intellectual movement declared that girls, had the right to education in order to improve their condition and achieve the progress of society as a whole. And the 1847 Constitution ordered, because till then girls learned some things and boys other things, but since 1847 the Constitution established that both genders should have uniform education, so the same education for both boys and girls since 1847. That's over 150 years ago. And in 1869, also more than 150 years ago, elementary school was declared free, obligatory, and financed by the state for all social classes and for both boys and girls. So this is to say that we have always recognized the importance of education as a means to personal, family, and national progress and prosperity. Then I'll mention about economy. Our economy has evolved throughout the years from a very basic economy. Coffee was, since the early 1840s, the main product, the first export product we produced in Costa Rica in the 1840s, and historically the basis of our economy. And that was true for a little bit over 100 years, I would say till the 1950s. From the 1840s to the 1950s, coffee, of which we are still very proud. We are very happy, and by the way, so coffee was, as I said before, our first export product, and the the basis of Costa Rican economy for over 100 years. Now, it's less significant economically. Agriculture makes up for only 10% of our exports, and coffee is in the third position after pineapple, of which we are the largest world exporter, and bananas, of which we are the second largest world exporter after Ecuador. So coffee is our third agricultural export product. Now our economy depends mainly on technological products and services. When I say technological products, I'm talking mainly about, this is coffee, see, and plantations of coffee in the previous picture, coffee. And, but now we export a lot of medical equipment, microchips, that kind of things, thanks mainly to the fact that several hundred of foreign companies, not Korean by the way, mostly American, a couple Japanese I would say, and some European companies have installed their production centers in Costa Rica. The country has been able to prepare its human resources to work in very specialized areas with added values. I like to say that we don't offer the possibility to foreign investors of finding their cheap labor, because we decided not to try to develop the country on the basis of the poverty of the people. So we are looking for investments of high level that require added value, and we struggle to prepare the people, the human resources, that kind of activities require. So when, unfortunately, many countries, even in our region, are talking about the benefit of cheap labor for foreign investors, I don't feel good about that. And I always try to stress the importance of high-level investments, and we know about the importance of preparing human resources for that purpose. I'll say that Costa Rica's economy has developed during the last 12 years, mostly, at a pace of 4% per year, which is not enough, much better than many other countries, but it's not enough. And we are very interested in eliminating poverty in the country, which is still very high. 20% of the Costa Rican population, that's 1 out of each 5 people, lives under the line of poverty. And that's a serious problem which we really want to solve. And I hope we can do it in the short term. Nature, to Costa Ricans, that's very important. We boast about being a green country. So, and I'll tell you a few facts about that. Costa Rica is the only country in the world which has, in the last 20 years, increased, not reduced, but increased its forest coverage. We have more forests now than we did 20 years ago. And so the country is very, it works hard in order to keep nature. 28% of the national territory is under some kind of protection. National parks, biological reserves, whatever. 28%, more than 1/4 of our national territory is under some kind of protection. In Costa Rica, we don't have, because it's legally established, it's forbidden to have, for instance, open mining. There were a few golden mines in Costa Rica. They cannot be exploited now because law prohibits open mining in order to protect the ecological system. Oil exploration requires, if we wanted to do it, it requires a special law. And I'll say that 95% of our energy is of a clean origin. That is, it comes from hydro, water, eolic, wind, solar, the sun. That's mainly the 95% of our national energy comes from clean sources. Most oil imports are required for transportation. That's mainly the use of oil imports. And the country has committed itself to become CO2 neutral in 2021 to celebrate 200 years of independence. And I think that we are working toward that goal at a very good pace. So if we achieve that, Costa Rica would be the first country in the world to ever be declared CO2 neutral. So, as I said before, as you can understand, we are very proud of our nature. We have decided tourism is important for us. Last year we received over 2,200,000 tourists. That's almost half our population. That would be as if Korea received 25 million tourists per year. And mainly we try to attract what we call eco-tourists and adventure tourists. Differently from other places which try to develop their tourism on the basis of casinos and that kind of things, we are interested in this kind of tourism. Ecotourism and adventure tourism are very important for us. You've seen a lot of beaches, so but we have beautiful beaches, really. And volcanoes, we have a lot of them, several of them active, as you will now see. This is a lagoon in the crater of one of our volcanoes. This is a volcano at night, lava you call it in English? Lava, this, lava coming out, so you can see it. It's at night time it illuminates the horizon. We have humid, dry, humid, and rainy forests in different areas of the country, and we try to keep them, as I said before. And now I'm going to talk briefly about Costa Rica and Korea. We established diplomatic relations in 1962, 2 years ago, to celebrate the 50th anniversary of our diplomatic relations. Our then President, Laura Chinchilla, came to Korea. Then President Lee Myung-bak received her, and we organized a very successful visit, of which we are very proud. So this is to say that Costa Rica and Korea, fortunately, have excellent diplomatic and friendly relations. There's about 50 Costa Ricans here, most of them students, a few of them working as English teachers or the like. There's, last figure we have, 550 Koreans in Costa Rica who live there on a permanent basis. All of them have developed their own businesses. And in spite of such a small Korean population, I don't know how they survive, but they survive, and they're doing quite well. We have 4 Korean restaurants in San Jose. And some of them, 2 of them at least that I know of, are very large restaurants. I want to mention, similarities between 4 personalities, 2 of each country, that I would say Costa Rica and Korea share. Former President Kim, Nobel Peace Prize winner. By the way, I'm not mentioning him now, but we have a former president who's a Nobel Prize winner also. President Kim Jong-un received the Nobel Peace Prize in recognition of his efforts to establish peaceful coexistence in the peninsula, in the Korean peninsula. And in our case, Jose Figueres, we call him the father of the modern democracy in Costa Rica. In 1948, he abolished the army, and he made large contributions to peace in the Central American region also. And then we have two personalities, living persons, who have gained international prestige. A distinguished Korean, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, whom we all know. Personally, I had the honor of meeting him and sustaining a brief conversation with him a little bit over a year ago when he visited Korea and went to the National Assembly. I'm proud to say that about 2 months ago he paid an official visit to Costa Rica as Secretary General of the UN, and after his official visit was over, he stayed in Costa Rica privately for vacation during 3 days. That made me happy, because I think he liked the country, or had good reports about the country, because he decided to stay there. But Mr. Ban Ki-moon, he has given Korea great honor and prestige all over the world. And we have a Costa Rican who has done more or less the same for us, Franklin Chang Diaz. By the way, his paternal grandfather was Chinese, a Chinese immigrant in Costa Rica, his father of his father. Franklin Chan was the first Costa Rican astronaut ever. He has a record he shares with an American astronaut, a record of 7 space missions. Only 2 people have reached that many space missions. And right now he's the president of a company which is developing a plasma engine designed to make space traveling cheaper and faster. And apparently he's been very successful in that. He's a recognized scientist, a member of the Hall of Fame at the NASA. And so he has given honor and prestige to Costa Rica, as Mr. Ban Ki-moon has done for Korea. If there's any questions, I would love to try to answer them after repeating my thanks to you all for your kind attention and your great patience. I hope you know now a little bit more about Costa Rica than you did, and at least I hope that our conversation could get you interested in learning more about my country, which is a very nice, good country. I'm open to questions if there are any.
Thank you for your insightful presentations. I really enjoy and learn a lot about Costa Rica from your presentations. I just want to go back to what you were saying about the uniqueness of Costa Rica in terms of the presence of democracy and freedom. So as I know that many Latin American countries still struggling to achieve like democracy and still unstable politically. So, yeah, but unlike any other Latin American country, you already mentioned that the Costa Rica has successfully achieved like the stable political setting and established like democratic government. So do you think what is the biggest difference between Costa Rica and any other country, and what made Costa Rica a more advanced country in Latin America? Thank you.
Probably my personal ideas. First of all, I mentioned before the fact that our first head of state was a school teacher, and as a general, we never had, even when we had an army, military was not a very strong sector of society. That helped us to abolish the army without any harsh reaction from interested parts. Isolation, I would say, is another factor. Costa Rica was the last country in the Central American province. It's Guatemala, way up north, and that's where the capital of Central America was during the colonial period. And so we were way down there, isolated, very poor. The country was baptized by, you know who Christopher Columbus was? Okay. By the way, our national currency, our money is called Colón. That's Columbus in Spanish, Cristobal Colón, Christopher Columbus. He himself, in his fourth and last voyage, he arrived in Costa Rica and he baptized the country because he was wrong. He saw Indians with golden ornaments and he thought, this is a rich coast. That's what Costa Rica means, rich coast. And he was wrong in two counts. Our indigenous population, which meant free labor for the colonialists, indigenous population in Costa Rica was very small. These people he saw were traveling from south to north, and gold was not as abundant either. These people were wearing golden ornaments, which they brought from the south, presumably Peru, and they were going north. So Christopher Columbus was wrong. He called us Costa Rica because he thought that we had a large Indian population and lots of gold. But the country was very poor. The Spanish governor, he had to, this is a historical fact, he had to grow up his own vegetables in his yard because he had no servants and less of all slaves to produce. So the community was very democratic in that respect. Everybody had to work. We were all very poor. And I think that that kind of isolation and the cultural practices that common likeness of richness enforced on the inhabitants of the country made us believers in democracy, in equality among people. And then the fact that we abolished the army. That's, I think that, and people really believe in exercising freedom and democratic principles. People are very, and with the passing of the years, people grow more and more prouder. They grow prouder of their system and they of their differences with other countries, and so everybody works hard in order to preserve and strengthen and perfection our democratic system. So, thank you again for your patience and your kindness. Thank you again to Asan Institute and EBS. It's been, for me, a unique opportunity to talk about my country, Costa Rica, to distinguished Koreans. And by the way, we are great admirers of your country. Thank you so much.